psychology and approach to exploring the mechanisms of mind. It hinges on the belief that human psychology evolved due to natural selection during the Stone Age. It generates hypotheses about what might have been helpful for our ancestors and then tests whether these behaviors are common in today's population. It uses a metric called Environment of Evolutionary Adaptedness, EEA, to create these hypotheses. EEA is defined as a composite of environmental properties of the most recent segment of a species' evolution that encompasses the period during which its modern collection of adaptations assumed their present form. This particular environment is usually associated with the Pleistocene hunter-gatherer period. Each psychological mechanism has its own environment of evolutionary adaptedness, or EEA. It does not refer to a specific time. That means the genetics adapted to your biological advancement may differ from your adaptedness to sexual jealousy, let's say. So I has a different EEA than sexual jealousy. Now let's move on to the main concern, why the hate? The most elementary criticism of EP is ontological in nature, that these hypotheses tend to be limited to what we actually know about our ancestors. All of this data becomes the bedrock of evolutionary psychologists to emphasize on the biological distinctions between men and women, and also the linear nature of their roles in society, which bolsters the stereotype pertaining to masculinity, femininity, and what are gender roles, right? So it ascertains very closely to those things. Now, charge number one is that dissenters of EP report that it has very few clinical applications and adheres strongly to the naturalistic fallacy by deliberating all symptoms of the modern malaise to our ancestors, attempting to justify how we ought to be rather than how we are. Furthermore, it is accused of not being a theoretical orientation used by psychologists in therapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapists examine cognitions and behaviors. Then you have psychodynamic therapists who examine childhood experiences and defense mechanisms. You have existential humanistic psychologists who examine how people make meaning for their lives. To refute this accusation, let us look at the psychometrics of the warmth trait. Now, it is largely associated with womanhood, as women tend to score higher in this trait than men. The warmth trait pertains to their instincts of nurturing, mothering, and caring. It also gives them a much more profound emotionality associated with emotional intelligence. Now, say, for example, a woman takes the test and does not score high in warmth. In fact, she scores less than the average male. The critics of EP would quickly disband an explanation for this anomaly, particularly if it poses an evolutionary disadvantage based on her score. To assume that EP renders her any less of a woman is a logical fallacy and oversimplification of evolutionary data. What this does suggest, however, is that a particular woman may face a greater risk of expressing vulnerability, making connections in the future, which could be of sociological or intimate nature, and just getting along with kids and other people, understanding their emotions. The reason is fairly simple. Basically, it sets a standard and measures deviation based on the scale of evolution, which has a longer history and larger validity than any other set of metrics developed since the 1800s. So we have modern psychology, which came about in the past 200 years, but evolutionary data predates that by 2.5 million years, right? Now, this is a list of examples, studies conducted by EP practitioners, which triumph modern psychology and give answers for many problems which psychology could not explain beforehand. In the book, The Adapted Mind, Jerome H. Barko explains how all behavior is the product of our evolved psychology, even the most novel of modern behaviors. The author argues that even seemingly non-functional evolutionary novel behaviors are expressions of our Pleistocene psychology, the hunter-gatherer period, and that we are just taking biologically unanticipated forms. That means we do not have proper knowledge whether we depicted these behaviors, but it is a derivative of the same age. Thus, the perspicacity with which this discipline is launching a systemic and scientific inquiry into the psychobiological phenomena with the help of interdisciplinary research and committed academics, the process to clinically decode the human-animal culture, many similarities which we share not only with other members of the same sex and species, but also animals, has undoubtedly benefited greatly to the reservoir of human knowledge. Now, charge number second says that EP is endorsed by bigots, fueling the manosphere and to spread misogyny. This charge is decidedly a folk attack on the discipline, since it accuses EP of A, bigotry, B, male chauvinism, and C, misogyny. Firstly, the accusation that EP is supported by bigoted and far right-wing political circles highlighting that all criticism of EP is doused as cultural Marxism by its practitioner is a popular strawman argument to discredit latest research and discoveries in the field. The plain truth is that in some domains, the empirical data overwhelmingly support specific evolutionary hypotheses. Evolutionary psychological hypotheses, of course, have to be evaluated on a case-by-case study. Some hypotheses will be correct, others will be partly correct and will require modification. Now let us consider the globally negative response to concepts like patriarchy. One influential source for this hatred for patriarchy is Max Horkheimer, a founder of the Marxist Frankfurt School, who is also revered as the proponent of the so-called critical theory. According to Horkheimer, education and intellectualism ought to concentrate on social change, implying that instead of empowering women, it should destabilize and abolish the powerful oppressors in a culture, which are men. Similarly, in humanities courses worldwide today, the preferred and radically enforced societal and political action is the annihilation of the natural and hierarchical experience by male culture. Manosphere, otherwise known as the masculine revival, is a reaction to this global sociological and political phenomena. Now, Jordan B. Peterson, a very famous Canadian clinical psychologist, refers to this dismantling action, which focuses on destroying rather than fixing, as an outrage directed towards male behavior that portends to be short-sighted and raw. He says, if you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of. As the story in the movie Fight Club depicts, when men are stripped of their masculinity, aggression can then become a forbidden fruit that manifests itself in fascist tendencies. It is tackling these concerns pertaining to the mass emasculation of men all around the world, which are responsible for the resurgence of right-wing politics, and EP does exactly that. Now, secondly, when it charges EPers with misogyny, the foundation of evolutionary psychology is laid out by scores of female psychology professors like Leda Kusmides, Margot Wilson, Marty Hazeltown, Barbara Mutz, Sarah Hardy, Helen Fisher, Deborah Lieberman, and Anne Campbell. They all form the foundation of evolutionary psychology. The final charge, I would just like to pause here for 1 second so that you can see. The final charge is that EP hyper-focuses on sex differences. Last in the series of charges against EP argues that EP focuses excessively on sex differences and it purports to long prevailing stereotypes and pseudoscience. Many conventional psychologists consider this problematic to their practice since their argument fundamentally either denies or diminishes sex-based differences whilst also imparting an excessive stress on emotional states. Now, David M. Buss argues that the assumption that male and female sexual psychologies are identical is a harmful position to take, given that we know that they are not. The problem with taking such a casual approach to a person's diagnosis is that their emotions are not reliable indicators for their overall health. Secondly, paying more attention to their confusion and letting it shape their identity can have more catastrophic results upon their lives than an evolutionary approach. In the words of American comedian Dave Chappelle, if an African-American man strongly feels that he's Chinese and not himself, does that make him Chinese? Now, of course not. The point is, emotions seldom adhere to logic and may oftentimes cause further complications rather than solving an issue. We can already see the aftermath of such clinically supported ideologies in the United States, where school students are barking and howling in classrooms, claiming that they identify as dogs and wolves. To look at mate selection and male-female sexual behavior as linear is problematic, since both men and women have distinct problems leading to distinct adaptations to long-term and short-term mating strategies, making it impossible to equate them with one another. David Buss argues in his book that since women can only reproduce so many times in their life, and having a child is a huge commitment which involves serious consequences like investing a body along with the years of raising a child, it makes women extremely valuable as a potential mate, says David Buss. Centuries ago, it was crucial for women to mate with healthy and resourceful men in order to enhance the survivability of their offspring. All right, man. So we can see that similarly, men show a greater propensity for short-term polygynous mating for the evolutionary purpose of ensuring the survival of their genes, because that was required on an evolutionary scale. Now, even though the modern malaise has changed that, now women can provide for themselves. They're industrious in work culture as well, but still we see that the baseline is attained again and again by the normal populace. Even though we change cultures, we swap to, let's say, a different location, we'll still find women complaining about the increasing load in corporate sectors, right? And there's a huge movement coming out front because of that. It's called anti-feminism, but that's only because it's in the preliminary stage. Now, also, let's not forget trans men competing in women's Olympics and winning all the trophies. So definitely we can see that there are sex differences which cannot be avoided. Now, what's a major cause for this criticism? That is called categorical thinking, which basically means that people are inclined to look at things from a limited perspective, which inhibits their potential to formulate a well-rounded understanding. Endocrinology, genetics, evolution, biology, sociology, physics, literature, philosophy, these are all various perspectives to look at the same problem. But the problem arises when we just pigeonhole our mindsets with just that perspective and do not take into account other disciplines. That is what EP tries to mitigate, to get a wholesome picture, to include other fields and other disciplines so that you can look at the same thing from a biologist perspective as well as a literature student's perspective. Now, to refute many claims made by modern psychology and psychiatry, let's look at the number of homicides that lie at the heart of modern psychiatry and psychology. In 1949, Nobel Prize winning scientist Egas Moniz, who won the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine, a Portuguese neurologist who drilled holes into the human skull. He killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people with his frontal lobotomies, that is slicing off 1/3 of your brain just to cure mental illness. Now, he left his patients mostly in a vegetative state. The pain was brutal, unlike any genocide, any homicide we have heard in history. In 1973, all right. So another Nobel laureate, Konrad Lorenz, who supported Hitler, who was also a favorite of Hitler, he's the father of the field ethology. Now, how many people has evolutionary psychology killed? 0. And with that, we come to the conclusion that even Charles Darwin, in his book On the Origin of Species, he says, in the distant future, I see open fields for far more important researchers. Psychology will be based on a new foundation. Steven Pinker says, in the study of humans, there are major spheres of human experience like beauty, motherhood, kinship, morality, cooperation, sexual violence, and even sexual assault, which modern psychology does not touch upon very elaborately. So that is why we need evolutionary psychology, and it proves as a very coherent and a coherent theory of examination. Evolutionary psychology challenges categorical thinking by putting into perspective the wide gyroscopic influences of evolution, human and animal history, sexual and social behaviors, and various strategies which evolved over time to result into the strategies we witness contemporaneously in the global society. The analysis of why do we do what we do and how is it advantageous to our survival are some of the questions which can only be appropriately investigated with EP. Thank you so much for listening.
So all remember that there will be, now I don't know whether you're aware of it or not. We have to give the best research paper presentation award. I have announced already. Okay. But you don't have to disclose it. No, I will not. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Those who stick to time only, they will get that. So please,
So please,
not without other person's time. So 3 presentations.
only 6 minutes given to a single presenter. So please.
The next 3 minutes, what's your take on that? Yes, so requesting that so that
Good morning, sir.
If there is any question, you can ask the presenter. If there is not, then we will going to move to our next presentation. Okay. So I would like to invite our next presenter, Divya Mathur. One minute. So I would like to call the next paper presenter, Sujata Anand. What is the topic? I think it's here.
All right, a very good morning to one and all. I'm Sujata and I'm currently enrolled as PhD scholar for French. The area of research is didactic. So the first question that would come to your mind is, why am I presenting in myth, literature, and so coming right to the point is, I took myth as one of the themes and not the mythological conceptions that we have like Mahabharata, Ramayana. No, I'm not getting into that since my area of research is strictly teaching and learning of French language. So the myth that I am going to talk about is the one that everybody as a French learner, a student has in his mind, that can we learn French if we don't know English? So where I come from, I belong to Haryana. There are a lot of students who learn French because they want to settle down in Canada abroad. And they are there for Canadian PR. But now the problem is neither do they speak English, nor they are very fluent in Hindi. Their dialect is Haryanvi, which is similar to Hindi. Yes, it is written in Hindi. So my paper is the socio-cultural factors affecting the French teaching learning in India. And it's a review study of faculty development programs' role in teaching French to regional language speakers. So not just Haryana, but Maharashtra, Gujarat, Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu. I've taken, so it's an oral interview done for this paper. And yeah, so now the basic problematic here is, if a student or a learner has any regional language as the dominant language, how exactly is the trainer or teacher supposed to teach them? Because French and English, they have the same, subject, verb, object, the structure of the sentence. However, when we talk about the regional languages, they have like मैं अध्यापिका हूँ, so I subject, adhyapika is the complement and who is a verb. Now somebody who's speaking that would have a huge problem in learning the other thing, right? So the basic paper or my research for the PhD itself is the review on the faculty development programs for French teachers that are taking place in India without, I'm not making any judgments, but it's the paper that I have written, and I reviewed a lot of FDPs that have already happened. So there I came to the conclusion that the trainers themselves are native French people. So the first problem, how do they understand the practical problems that Indian teachers for French languages are facing? First thing. Second thing, once the FTBs are over, whatever is taught in the theoretical, I'm not saying all the FTBs don't take into consideration, but most of them are based on the structure, the language structure, how French should be taught. The practical problem still remains the same, how to teach the regional language speakers who don't know, are not very good at English, right? Even I have students, and the respondents that I have taken are my students. So I have been teaching at Delhi University for quite some time, for 8 years. Then I resigned, and then I'm here for my PhD. So I have had students, and I have this experience that they won't reply in the class. They won't say a word because everything that is being taught is in English. So for them, at least at the beginner stage, it is mandatory for the teacher to make sure that the public takes interest, because otherwise they'll quit after a year, right? So I'll get to the conclusion directly. So basically the problematic was, what are the cultural factors? So there were 5 cultural factors that I came across. The preconceived language and dialects that they have, it acts as a positive and a negative, major factor that enhances their interest in the language. Second was the occupation that they are looking for. If they have a direct need for their occupation, or the current the work that they are looking for, then their motivation would be higher. Then the social and cultural insecurities that come across. Obviously, we all have come across people who take English as the elite language, and once or if they are not very fluent in the language, then they feel a little insecure amongst their peers who are fluent otherwise, right? So when it comes to French, there's a whole different world that judges you. So, and then fourth was rural and urban needs. And lastly, the lack of identification with the target language culture. It is very, since the major pupil that I'm referring to are the regional language speakers, they are from the outskirts of the cities. So they are basically rural, and they have, agriculture as their major occupation in the family. So then their identification with the French culture is, they don't even get it. They don't understand why. I really cannot. Okay, I'll just move ahead. So yeah, there is a huge gap in the identification with the French culture, because for them, even English movies is a waste of time. They won't relate. So then, let alone French. French are supposed to be the precursors of modernity, as we say. So, when we as teachers tell them to watch French movies or watch French songs and hear them to practice their pronunciation, one of the students ended up saying, "Ma'am, there's this girl Indila and she sings in French. She's singing very good, but she keeps walking, and we don't get it. Where is she going there?" Now somebody who belongs to the culture or understands or has at least seen English movies gets the idea what is happening in that particular song. All right. So yeah, so the conclusion to this paper was that the FDPs that we have in India are only focusing on language skills and practice, teaching pedagogy, using of digital technologies, literature in the university classroom. Everything is there, yes, but it still doesn't answer the problem at the reality, which is what and how do we train the teachers who are dealing exclusively with regional language speakers? Where does this gap come in? Like, the student does not speak English, and we are there to teach a foreign language. So what to do then? That is all about it. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Without any further ado, we'd like to call our next presenter, Mr. K. Muthuwal.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Just I'm going to share my screen, then I proceed further.
Sir, please on your mic.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, you
Hello.
are audible.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen, then I proceed further.
Sir, please try without earphones.
Without earphone. Okay, sir. Just a minute. I can remove. Sir, can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. Before going to present my presentation, I would like to thank to the committee, organizing committee, who have given me an opportunity to present my paper in this international conference. The topic of my presentation is identity problem as reflected in contemporary French and Francophone literature. So the study is focused only on analyzing the identity problem as reflected in the contemporary French and Francophone literature.
Sir, you are not audible, so please wait.
Yeah, just a minute, sir.
Volume is high.
Yes, sir.
One minute, sir, please. Yes, sir.
So can I use my earphone?
Excuse me, Mr.
So
Muthuwal
please
K.
check your mic once.
No, Mr.
Yes, sir, it is
Muthuwal
on.
K.
Yeah, it is on.
It is audible to me. That seems that there is something wrong with some other people's system, no?
Exactly,
Can I
sir.
use my
I can
earphone?
also hear.
So
I can also
suggest
hear you, sir.
those who cannot hear you may please check their systems.
Sir, can I use my earphone or I can remove my earphone?
We have some suggestions, IT support.
From that laptop, it's connected to. He's a section chair for another station.
Ma'am, okay, ma'am, both are connected.
IT support team, please look into the matter. People are facing difficulties here.
Sir, there is no issue as such. I wish Muthuvel sir
you-
can continue, please.
Right, ma'am, right.
Type in chat
Thank you,
box.
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm
Sir,
really
if you are
sorry for the
able to
delay for
hear
that.
us,
So I would like
you have
to
to, sir,
make it
you
quickly.
have to unmute yourself.
Ma'am, it's already
Or
on,
you
ma'am.
just, yes,
It's
your
already on. I'm
earphones are
putting on
already plugged
nearly
in,
about
so
84.6 point volume. Yeah. Sir, can I proceed? Hello.
आप इसको हटाओ हट गया
Yes,
ठीक है?
ma'am.
सर
Yes, ma'am.
आपका आवाज अभी हमें नहीं आ रहा है
Okay, ma'am, just a
Not
minute more. I
able to,
can
sir, please.
use my mic at least 1 minute. Can you hear me now?
It's very clear, sir. It's very clear, ma'am. There is no issue.
Right, ma'am. Right. So, right, ma'am. Thank you. Right. So I came Muthuvel and along with my professor, Dr. Deepa Chakravarti, we're going to present this paper, and the topic is identity problem as reflected in contemporary French and Francophone literature. So the study focused on analyzing the identity problem as reflected in contemporary French and Francophone literature. It aims to highlight the identity problem depicted in the contemporary novel of Amélie Nothomb. Amélie Nothomb is a contemporary Belgian French-speaking writer honored with various prestigious awards for her meritorious and meticulous writing. Nothomb vast output over a wide range of plot and takes its influence from several cultures ranging from Japanese to classical literature. The study is to highlight the identity problem as reflected in their notable work and some of the key features of problems such as language, culture, national and professional, etc. So based on the study of analysis of identity problem as reflected in Amélie Nothomb novel, it encompasses 5 aspects of Pavlenko that can be subjected to transformation. To analyze this novel called Stupeur et Tremblement in French, whereas in English we can say Fear and Trembling, which is written by Amélie Nothomb, which can be highlighted the following categories such as linguistic identity, national, racial and ethnic identity, cultural identity, gender identity, and social and class identity. So each category is expanded by an extract study. The first I want to talk about linguistic identity. So among sociolinguists, language is not only a method of communication, but also a symbol of social identity or group identity. So linguist identity prefer a language property and subsequently a property of meaning. According to Pavlenko, language ownership is a core domain where the identities are associated within intercultural autobiography. So in this context, the Japan has been traditionally considered as a monolingual country where the majority population speaks Japanese as a main language. So in this context, Amélie imagined herself as a traditional Japanese woman during a tea ceremony called Okakumi. However, her boss is disappointed because she is a white woman, must not speak Japanese language. And finally, Amélie is forbidden to speak it. Her mastery of language is what allowed Amélie to imagine herself as a Japanese woman, and at the same time, it is what triggered the conflict. As she is not a Japanese, she is not considered as a legitimate speaker, and therefore she is not imagined herself. As Pavlenko pointed out, in the country where a monoglottic ideology dominates, bilingual remain unimaginable. Now, the second identity problem is national, racial, and ethnic identity. So Pavlenko insists that linguistic context is often related to race, and therefore standard English is related to the whiteness of the white people. Similarly, it shows that in Japan, the Nihon Jerome ideology which emphasizes the racial, linguistic, and cultural homogeneity of Japan, assume that the foreigners cannot learn to speak the Japanese language in a mother tongue way. As mentioned, the different aspects of identity analyzed in the study were closely related. For example, the extract we have then mentioned that the race or whiteness is also mentioned as a prerequisite for language ownership, in addition to a new perspective of national, racial, and ethnic identity found in this extract. Author Nothomb has shown the difference is posed in terms of Western and Eastern way of learning a language, although the situation is reversed and instead speaks of forgetting a language. Her answer is related to her ideas about how the Japanese would have responded. According to Hashimoto, there is a sense of being unique in Japanese culture, which is related to the concept of Japanese culture as opposed to Western culture. Hashimoto pointed out that For a Japanese language, the proficiency need to the courage completely engage body and mind in the task. And the third identity is cultural identity. Notom as a cultural affiliation, not especially in Belgium, but in general to Western culture in her novel, as it feels that it carries the Western culture to the Japanese society, but at the same time, as a part of its culture is Japanese. The protagonists take care of her two cultures where they share the readers about the two point of view or she imagine of both the culture. Again, the author highlights the difference between Western and Eastern culture. In this time, the context of living a job and confrontational thought attached to it. So living a job is common in Western society, but it is considered as a disgrace or dishonor in Japanese. According to Hashimoto, Western concept of individualism is negatively interpreted as egocentrism or selfishness in Japan, but on the other hand, the concept of individuality is treated as a positive element in establishing Japanese identity. As the author Shui and Tollefson point out, the individual in Japanese emphasize individualism as opposed to group and individuality as compared to the group. And the fourth identity issue is a gender identity. So Amelie deals with her inability to be a Japanese woman as Japanese women are supposed to be. And instead, she thinks that she behaved like a man because she dreamt. Hoshihara states that gender discourse in Japan are dominated by the images of Japanese men projected with an ideal Japanese femininity. Although Amelie thinks that she failed to behave like a Japanese woman, it is significant that how she can embody and transform her identity. The last identity is social and class identity. So Pavlenko pointed out that social and class identity are inextricable in relation to the problem of language ownership as race, ethnicity, culture, and gender. It gives an example of dominant discourses related to the stranger, to humility and illegitimacy. However, social identity is linked to the author assumption about the group that consider her as a stranger in this context, etc. At the outset, in the conclusion, the study has analyzed various identity problems as reflected in contemporary novel of Amelie Nothomb work, such as linguistic identity, where language ownership is the core domain where the identities are associated within intercultural autobiography. Racial, linguistic, and cultural homogeneity of Japan assume that the foreigners cannot learn to speak a Japanese language in a mother tongue way. The third one, it has highlighted the difference between Western and Eastern culture. The fourth one, the gender discourses in Japan were dominated by the image of Japanese man projected with an ideal Japanese femininity. Although Amelie were not able to behave like a Japanese woman, but it is significant she can be embodied and transform her identities. At the last, social and class identity found inextricable in relation to the problem of language ownership as a race, ethnicity, and culture gender. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tunda. Hello. Hello.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So I would like to invite our next paper presenter. Okay, sir, please don't leave this meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Stay
Yes,
with
sir.
us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. This one will- Okay, I would like to invite our next paper presenter, Aniba Tariq.
Good afternoon, everyone present over here. I am Aniba Tariq, a postgraduate student at the Department of English, Aligarh Muslim University. I will be presenting my paper entitled Revisiting King Lear from the Perspective of Islamic and Cultural Paradigms. William Shakespeare's King Lear is a timeless tragedy that has captivated audience for centuries with its complex and characters and themes. As literature continues to be reinterpreted through various lenses, this paper takes a fresh approach by revisiting King Lear from the perspective of Islamic, cultural, and religious paradigms. The paper will delve into how Lear's struggle reflect the broader Islamic concept of surrendering to the divine plan, resulting in spiritual growth and acceptance of destiny. Also, family dynamics and parental duties are central to King Lear. So the paper will analyze these relationships through the Islamic lens, drawing parallels to the importance of maintaining family ties and honoring the parental rights in Islam also. King Lear is one of William Shakespeare's most renowned tragedies, telling the gripping tale of an aging monarch, King Lear, who makes the ill-fated decision to divide his kingdom among his 3 daughters based on the declarations for love for him. However, this seemingly straightforward act of inheritance spirals into a tumultuous and tragic series of events. Now, I'll quickly take to the main point. So I'll take to explore how the Islamic perspectives enhances our understanding of the play. The Islamic perspective can enrich our interaction of King Lear by highlighting themes of humility, repentance, patience, social justice, and compassion, all of which resonate with Islamic teachings. It offers a lens through which we can explore the character's moral dilemmas and the consequences of their actions in the context of broader spiritual and ethical principles. This interplay between themes of the play and Islamic values deepens our appreciation of the timeless and universal message embedded in Shakespeare's masterpiece. In Islam, the role of family and filial piety holds significant importance as it deeply intertwined with the moral and ethical fabric of other religion. Filial piety is a fundamental obligation placed upon Muslims. The Quran explicitly commands believers to be dutiful and respectful to their parents. Surah Al-Isra states, I quote, "And your Lord has decreed that you do not worship except him, and to parents good treatment, whether one or both of them reach old age, while with you say not to them so much as of, and do not rebel them, but speak to them a noble word." So this was underscores the necessity of kindness and patience and respect towards the parents, even in the face of difficulty or differences. It emphasizes that serving one's parents in act of worship in Islam and fulfilling this duty is means of earning divine blessing. And now I would like to shed light on how characters' actions align or conflict with Islamic family values. And if we see, in this context, Lear's initial decision to divide his kingdom among his daughters based on their professions of love can be seen as a conflict with Islamic values. Islam places a strong emphasis on the equitable treatment of children and ensuring justice in the distribution of resources. Lear's action reflect a lack of justice and wisdom, which ultimately leads to chaos and suffering, underscoring the consequences of disregarding Islamic principles of fairness and parental respect. So, or in Islam, authority and leadership also are seen as trust, amanat, from the Allah Almighty, the ultimate source of authority in God himself, and all the human leaders, whether religion or secular, are considered steward accountable to God for their actions and decisions. So I can say that all the perspectives which I can say, he has divided his kingdom, or he has professed his love according to the daughter's profession. So it can be injustice to all the children or on the side of parent also, because this in any society, in any culture, any religion, it won't be a good act of distributing or loving them on the basis of their confession, because everyone has their own form of expressing their values. King Lear's initial misjudgment in dividing his kingdom based on flattery rather than merit illustrate the consequences of arrogance and poor governance, which directly conflict with Islamic values. Lear's decision to delegate power based on empathy, declarations of love, leads to turmoil, highlighting the importance of sound leadership rooted in righteousness. Furthermore, Lear's descent into madness serves a poignant reminder of the spiritual consequences of arrogance and hubris. In Islamic tradition, pride and arrogance are condemned, and humility before God is encouraged. Lear's suffering can be seen as a reflection of the Islamic concept of tawbah or repentance, where individuals must be acknowledged their errors and seek forgiveness and humility before God. Furthermore, Islamic notions of justice and accountability are deeply rooted in Quran, as accountability is seen in the concept of taqwa, which represents good consciousness. Believers are encouraged to be mindful of their actions, knowing that they will be held accountable in the hereafter. The play explores the idea that one actions have consequences, and these consequences are often reflection of the divine order. King Lear's tragic downfall, for instance, can be seen as a result of his initial folly, in dividing his kingdom and banishing his loyal daughter Cordelia, setting off a chain of events that leads to chaos and suffering. Now I just quickly come to the conclusion. So Shakespearean and Islamic worldviews, while distinct in their origins and context, offer contrasting perspectives on some points, on various aspects of life also. Morality and human nature, Shakespearean literature often explores the complexities of human nature, compressing themes of individualism, while Shakespearean literature tends to explore the multifaceted nature of human character and the consequences of individual actions. Islamic teachings guide adherent towards a life of faith, moral responsibility, and a sense of purpose that transcends the self. Despite these differences, it is important to note that both worldviews provide valuable insights into the human experience, and they are not necessarily in opposition to each other. Recognizing these differences and commonalities can lead to a more comprehensive understanding of the diversity of human thought and belief system. Furthermore, Islamic teachings emphasizes compassion, kindness, and collective responsibility, which can help individuals build a stronger support network to cope with life's difficulties more effectively. Like in King Lear, characters like Cordelia and Kent exemplify these virtues by displaying compassion and humility, offering a model behavior that can inspire individuals to be more resilient and compassionate when faced with adversity. And the whole idea of this paper also provides a firm base of the solution one can find universally through the lens of Islamic cultural and religious paradigms by the analysis of King Lear. So this exploration not only enriches our own personal growth, but also contribute to the promotion of cross-cultural dialogue and more inclusive society. It is an opportunity to cultivate a profound appreciation for the richness of human diversity and the universality of themes that connect us all. So let your curiosity guide you as you delve into literature through different lenses, for it is a rewarding journey that expands our horizons and deepens our connection to the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So we would like to call our next presenter, Dr. Bhumika Sharma. She's not online as well. So we'll proceed with next, Rimpa Khatun, ma'am. She's online.
Yes, ma'am. A very good a very good afternoon, respected delegates and esteemed guests, the convener and the organizing committee of this conference, and my fellow participants. Today, I invite you on a journey into the depth of male identity, which is too discriminated.
Please switch on your camera, please, if possible.
If possible, please can you switch on your camera?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, today I would like to take you to the journey where we will discuss about male identity, which also can be discriminated. Here, I would like to share my screen, then I will proceed.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to share my screen. Is it visible?
No, ma'am.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Your video is off.
I'm sharing my screen. Sorry. Share screen. Is it?
No, ma'am. Still, you are not visible.
Screen. It should allow all. Okay, allowed. Actually, this shows. Actually, I'm getting some problem. It should be shown like share my screen. Share whiteboard, share screen. Zoom to recording cost. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
You
This one,
not
can you share
allow.
PPT? I will open it here.
Oh, sorry. Actually, it was denied in my system. I allowed now. Display another, okay. It is allowed. I think now it will work.
Yes, no.
Is
Okay,
it
ma'am.
visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
We're connected through mobile,
Yes, ma'am.
but it should be visible.
Okay.
Both
So my topic is deconstructing masculinity, exploring male discrimination in postmodern Indian English literature. My name is Rimpa Khatun, a research scholar, Department of English, and my supervisor's name is Dr. Sagarika Mahanta, which is actually this presentation is a collaborative work as was she is not present here. Hence, I am going to present it. And my university is Assam Downtown University, Assam. Discrimination, actually, it is not a new concept. It goes back to a long time in human history. Discrimination and marginalization are related, and but they are not the same thing, because discrimination means treating people unfairly or with prejudice because of things like their race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. It can involve giving them different treatments, sometimes denying their rights, opportunities, or resources, and it happens in different parts of society, like work, education, housing, and public services. On the other hand, marginalization is when people or a group or some groups are pushed to the edges of society. It's like they are excluded or isolated from fully taking parts in social, economic, or political life. Discrimination can lead to marginalization, but marginalization can also happen because of other reasons like differences in money, power, or unfair systems. Not all cases of marginalization come from discrimination. This should be noted. And sometimes it's caused by things like historical events, money differences, or what is seen as normal in a culture. Marginalization is a big idea from my point of view that includes things like gender, social class, age, where you live, or and more. There is a similar idea in the writings of an Italian thinker named Antonio Gramsci. He talked about subaltern, which means actually the people who live in an inferior or lower position. He used this word subaltern to talk about social classes that are conducted, that are actually controlled by the rich and powerful people, like those who are pushed to the margins of society. This is a kind of like that happened during colonial times when the people, especially the Indian people, were under the control of British rule. And alternate concept of this notion, that is subaltern, is Homi Bhabha's concept called othering, where the lower or the weak community is always considered as other, or with the weak gender. Suppose in a patriarchal society, the women are also considered as other or second sex. The notion now, my topic as my topic talks about male discrimination. So the notion of male dominance in literature actually traditionally pertains to the prevalence of male authors, male protagonists, and male perspectives that have historically dominated literary works. However, in recent times, a notable shift towards inclusivity and diversity within the literary realm has emerged, ushering in a greater representation of women authors and female viewpoints, and male persons frequently assume the role of the other through their diverse, male protagonists have been actually seen as other by the female writers.
Excuse me, sorry for disturbance, but you only 1 minute is remaining for you. So please do it fast.
Okay. So writers like Adichie, Jhumpa Lahiri, Kabri Nambisam had injected a fresh vitality into the storytelling, exploring a vast spectrum of themes and experiences, many of which are woman-centric, while not excluding actually male. These authors do not explicitly delve into the notion of the male as subaltern within their narratives. Rather, they scrutinize the oppression and discrimination endured by both by man and woman within patriarchal system. For example, in Margaret Atwood's novel, The Handmaid's Tale, the male characters also grapple with the oppressive regime depicted in the narrative. They find themselves bound by societal expectations and subjected to their own forms of subjugation. The commander, who is a character, a figure of authority, is also shown as confined in a hierarchical society that restricts his personal freedom and desires. Similarly, another character whose name is Nick, a lower ranking male character, faces constraints imposed by the oppressive regime, albeit in distinct ways. And Adisi's Ngozi Adichie's novel, right, like Purple Hibiscus and Half of a
Can
Yellow
you
Sun.
move to conclusion, please?
Okay. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that the examination of masculinity in postmodern Indian English literature serve as a captivating exploration of societal norms and power dynamics through the nuanced narratives, through the nuanced narratives painted by the insightful authors, we are invited to deconstruct the multifaceted layers of masculinity, shedding lights on its intricate contradictions and subtle ways in intersects with issues of discrimination. As we navigate the literary landscape crafted by these talented writers, we are reminded that literature in all its richness and diversity remains a potent tool for challenging stereotypes and provoking critical dialogue. The stories within these pages beckon us to reflect not only on the struggle of man, but also on the broader tapestry of human existence, with the where the quest for identity and equality knows no gender bounds. As we deconstruct masculinity through the lens of postmodern Indian English literature, we embark on a journey found profound and introspection, one that encourages us to dismantle the barriers of prejudice and forge a more equitable and enlightened path forward. Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Excuse me. Yes, sir. Okay, now you can present your paper.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Am I to present?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me share the screen, sir. First of all, I deem it a great privilege to thank the management of Amity University for providing this wonderful platform so that we can present the paper and enrich ourselves with the enlightening sessions. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate and also thank the organizing team for their efforts and all their hard works to reach up to this pinnacle of success. Thanks to the presenters as well, the convener of this session. So now I'd like to start my session. This is Dr. Noor Fatima, Associate Professor in English, Presidency University, and I'm going to present the paper, the title of which is The Inner Turmoil of 1,000 Faces of Women, projected by Geeta Hariharan in her novel, The 1,000 Faces of Night. The introduction goes this way. This paper is an attempt to examine the predicament of women as represented by the characters of Geeta Hariharan. In 1993, she has been awarded the Commonwealth Writers' Prize winning, prize for her novel, The 1,000 Faces of Night. It deals with the feminine psyche and examines the way it affects the personal and social well-being of a woman. This paper tries to address the question of whether women's writings require a different critical approach than what is normally applied to literature by men. It deals with how women characters are entrapped in their gender roles. It negotiates, trying to negotiate with the small therapies like playing veena, drinking whiskey out of resilient nature, and discharging the household chores as the cultural tradition the woman must bind with in the patriarchal and marginalized society. I moved ahead with talking a bit about women writing in India because this is a very important topic to discuss with. How Indian women have managed to negotiate the power structure in spite of being confined to their homes and traditions. New feminist literary or critical theories have often pointed out that it's important to locate the conditions in which women wrote and the challenges they had to face in order to appreciate their works in their writing. They struggle to voice their inner conflict that is unexposed, hidden, or repressed for the centuries long underneath their faint smile, to see that everyone around them is peaceful and they live a harmonious life, and also the relationships that women had to maintain, despite she being discontent, ungratified, and even rebellious most of the time. Women had to face all that, and she had to smile with everyone. So the writing was dealt with that. The research findings here are most of Geeta Hariharan's women characters are set in a middle class milieu. They demonstrate a strong sense of resilience to accept cultural and social norms imposed on them by traditional society. It is this struggle with the outside world which also captures the inner turmoil. My paper is actually that talks about the inner turmoil that woman undergoes in her mind. It's not just about one single particular woman. It's not just about the protagonist here that we speak about. It is about the entire universal problem that the woman faces. It is this struggle with the outside world which also captures the inner turmoil that a woman undergoes in their mind. Hariharan tries to show how these women are entrapped in the gender roles and they're confined within their limit and they're not expected to go out of their, whatever that is confined to, and to speak a bit or have their own voice. But her women characters are not shown here as mere victims. Geeta Hariharan is trying to show that her women characters are not bound with that entirety as victims of this entrapment. They became acutely aware of their situation. They know that what they're doing, what are they moving ahead with whom they are having the relationships and their affairs, and how they are tackling each of their situations. And they also come out trying to figure out a way to come out of their situation with some degree of success, but not without a sense of loss. This is what the paper is trying to look into. And here, let me just pour a bit on, pour a light on the novel that presents the inner conflict of main protagonist, Devi, who moved to America, having earned the scholarship to pursue her master's. Her relationships and affairs are brought out in which she struggles to maintain her identity. Though she was in America, she did not accept the traditional way, the culture, cultural changes in her life. And she wanted to always have, the life that she belonged to, the origin that she had. Okay, that's about all, amidst the patriarchal and male-dominated society. She wanted to just come out, with all her wings, and she didn't want to confine with whatever the culture that is around her or surrounded by her, to accept and to live within that within that particular line. And in America, she renounces her boyfriend, whose name is Dan, due to American culture, which she did not like to adopt, okay, because she, basically being an Indian and having to accept the traditions and cultures, at the same time being rebellious to all those traditions and cultures, she didn't want to accept blindly the American culture, because of which she renounced her boyfriend there, and she came back to India. In conclusion, Jean Baker aptly said that women are bound to consciously adopt and adapt to such vulnerability, and finally they adhere to such facts that are accepted just for the other's sake. When Sita's daughter gets married, she feels she's another protagonist here, and she feels utter desperate considering her existence is only made for herself, but unable to have a grip. It's something like, she has to understand that she is, of course, living for herself, but at the same time, she is not living for herself. She's living for others. She's making others happy. She wants to see everyone smiling and being content. She has to undergo the inner turmoil despite that, whatever the inflictions and afflictions she had around her. It is observed that a woman is confined to the passive, submissive, and subservient role of traditional and patriarchal society, just to see that everyone around her lives in harmony, and the relationships are well maintained at the cost of her huge personal sacrifices, which a woman does, especially in India, and her feelings are quite suppressed. This incomprehensible and unresolved conflict is just a part of a woman's attribute, but the parameters
Sorry,
with which
interrupting
she
you.
lives require deep
Can you move
attention.
towards your conclusion? Your time limit is exceeded.
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you.
Yes, ma'am. Can you conclude?
Yeah, sure. I'm just about to conclude, sir. And this incomprehensible and unresolved conflict is just a part of woman's attribute, but the parameters with which she lives require deep attention so as to make the world a better place to live in and enjoy existence. I just would like to just say a few words. The study focuses on Devi's rejection of all traditions and culture, be that immoral American culture in the case of her boyfriend Dan, or the Brahmin traditions of Mahesh. Her elopement manifests that she cannot take up to live a life of sacrifice. This is what the main idea of the entire research is. She's not going to accept the life as it comes. Okay, she wants to live a life which she wants to, she wishes to. She doesn't want to be under the submissive, traditional life of a woman. So with this goes my conclusion of this paper. Thanks for your patient listening. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Ma'am, please stay in the meeting because at the end we'll have a discussion.
Sure, ma'am, sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like
Thank
to
you.
invite our next participant, Sir Hemkanwar Shekhawat. Sorry, ma'am. Revati ma'am, the next presentation is yours, so please be ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, Gmail.
Yes.
Should I start now?
No, ma'am. After this presentation, you present after this presentation. Okay, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Clear.
Hello, excuse me. Can someone please reply?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Are we still in the meeting? Because I don't hear. I felt like, I'm just lost. We're
No,
still
no,
there,
ma'am.
right?
We are still in meeting.
ठीक है, ठीक है.
She received numerous honors and awards. Her life spanned the 20th century, but her works and reflections makes it difficult for her to be placed with romantics or a modern visionary. Views of Kathleen Rene. She, as a poet, always looked for a meaning in life. Her works majorly deal with the ideas of spirituality and divine vision and takes up her personal experiences and memories. She was highly influenced by nature and philosophy and dealt with conflicts as well as materialistic ideologies. Rene spent her childhood years in Northumberland with her aunt and pursued botanical studies at Girton College, which induced in her love for nature and a sense of human familiarity with plants and flowers. This is the examples. Shalman. Okay.
This is your first presentation.
No, ma'am. This is the second. This is the poem written by Rene Heirloom from her collection, The Lost Country. This poem touches on themes of memory, passage of time, childhood wonder, and the deep connection between individuals and the natural world. The beautiful poem begins by mentioning the various flowers and natural elements the mother gave to the speaker during her childhood. These conclude heather, eyebright, and lichen and more. Mother shares her memories with the child, connecting her experiences with the natural world. This transmission of memories represents a bonding between generations and the passing down of knowledge. This is another poem written by Rene. This poem about the beauty of lying still under the sky, but brings out the elements of doubt, as some can't do it. The speaker of the verse title Nocturne considered the dreaming state of the writer. And this is the autobiography written by Rene. Land unknown, farewell, happy fields, the lion's mouth. And this is the conclusion. Rene went through extensive research in order to bring out the very minute details in Blake's works. Rene's poetry often explores the different ways in which the human and natural world interested in the idea of eternal moment, which she considered as a means of going beyond limits of the time and space. Rene also opened through her works that poetry was a useful instrument to reconnect with the natural world and that it could help us develop a better understanding of our place in the universe. Rene's language is highly poetic and musical, and her use of symbolism and comparative devices is rich, phenomenal, and resonant when explored. She often draws images from past or from nature and ancient myths reflecting her interest. This is the bibliography slide now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Revati Viji for their presentation.
Hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm Revati, a research scholar, Amity School of Languages, Amity University, Rajasthan. I would like to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
1 minute.
1 second.
Yes.
Window is not opening. Zoom.
Is it visible?
Ma'am, it's not opening. I think there is some glitch in that.
Yes, yes, it is visible, ma'am. I can see. That means everyone should.
So I don't know whether I'm an odd man out here because
Ma'am, it's not opening.
It's not opening.
Ma'am, wo open nahi ho raha.
It is open, ma'am.
From your side, it's open or our side?
The online. Listen, I think.
Yeah. Window.
No. It is side.
Yes.
No, but there are others also. Let her join. Can IPL people be called?
Ma'am, John?
Sir, can I proceed or should I wait?
Yes, just a minute.
Just a minute. The window is not open. Yes, ma'am. I am. Yes, ma'am. Not opening. Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm opening this. I'm opening this, ma'am, but it is not open.
I'm also telling you that he's trying to click on that, but
But he's not getting the views.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll click later on that.
Mm.
Good afternoon,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
हाँ ये
Good afternoon.
Represent-
यहाँ मैं रखता हूँ विंडो और विंडो फोन नंबर ग्लिच हो गया
करते तो फिर जूम मीटिंग में हो
मीटिंग Okay, ma'am. Now you can proceed.
Once again, good afternoon. I'm Revati, research scholar, Amity School of Languages, Amity University. I'm doing my research under the guidance of Professor Parul Mishra. So today my topic is a bit different from whatever my other co-presenters have done. Today I'm going to talk about revisiting a myth in English language teaching, not in English literature. The topic is empowering English language teaching, embracing linguistic diversity through translanguaging. So comes to the introduction. English language teaching landscape is diverse with learners from different culture and linguistic background. The conventional view of language teaching in classroom is that two languages are generally taught in two isolated systems. We don't want to mingle two languages together. In India, most of the classrooms are multilingual, and translanguaging gives multilingual students an advantage within the classroom to be comfortable and tense-free and utilize their full linguistic repertoires. It involves the use of multiple languages in learning process with a focus on leveraging the students' existing language skills to enhance their acquisition of new languages. You may be thinking about this translanguaging pedagogy. The term, what does it mean? Translanguaging is the ability of multilingual speakers to shuttle between languages, treating the diverse languages that form their repertoires as an integrated system. Translanguaging is a recent and extremely successful concept in the area of bilingual and multilingual education that has gained wide acceptance in literature in the short period of time. Translanguaging is presented as a unique approach through which all students may use all their languages in formal education despite teachers not knowing those languages. Even NEP 2020 envisages the same. What are the key features of translanguaging? Acknowledgement of the value of students' linguistic diversity, use of multiple languages in learning process, focus on leveraging students' existing language skills to enhance their acquisition of new languages. This translanguaging pedagogy is getting popularity in India nowadays. There was a period when we felt that languages must be separated and direct method or audio-lingual method must be used in English language classrooms. Even mother tongue or no other languages must be used in an English teaching learning platform. That was a concept before. But in a real classroom situation in India, this practice never happens completely. Students among themselves or teachers among themselves or students to teachers, sometimes they use different languages to convey the meaning. I have done a case study in a school in Chennai. It is a multilingual classroom where students spoke various languages, including Tamil, Malayalam, Hindi, Kannada, Telugu, and the teacher used translanguaging to create a more inclusive and supportive learning atmosphere. Teacher encouraged students to use their own languages to express their ideas and thoughts, and then help to reflect and connect those ideas to English. This approach not only helps students to better understand the understand the materials, and also fostered a sense of community and respect for linguistic diversity in the classroom. Translanguage pedagogy also helps to enhance higher order thinking skills. English learning or English classroom is not only for communication in English. There are many other language skills that must be developed in English learning classroom. Here, translanguaging pedagogy will help to enhance higher order thinking skills or 21st century skills, critical thinking skills, communication skills, creativity, collaboration, and technology-based skills also. We can have so many activities in the classroom to enhance translanguaging development in translanguaging pedagogy, like critical thinking activities, like reflection of a lesson in any language where students are comfortable, reading newspapers in mother tongue and deliver a speech about it in English, writing a story in which characters speak in different languages, a role play in which students are allowed to discuss and practice the language they are comfortable with and present a role play in English, a logic behind the programming and algorithm. All these can be done in the classroom through translanguaging pedagogy. These are the findings of my study. The content learning is more easy through translanguaging. 21st century skills can be developed, and teachers' role is also here. We will get a student-centric classroom when we practice translanguaging in classroom. To sum up, I would like to say that embracing linguistic diversity through translanguaging is crucial in empowering English language teaching. By recognizing and valuing the languages and cultures of students, teachers can create a more inclusive and effective learning environment. The benefits of translanguaging are numerous, from improved language proficiency to increased cultural awareness and empathy. However, incorporating translanguaging strategies into lesson planning and assessment can be challenging, and solutions must be found to address these issues. Ultimately, by embracing translanguaging in multilingual classrooms, teachers can provide a more enriching and engaging educational experience for all students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So next, I would like to invite the presenter, Himanshu.
Sir, Kritika Khatri. It's in your presentation? Yes. It's on the next.
You can change one.
Good afternoon, one and all. My name is Gitika Khatri, and the title of my paper is Unraveling the Tapestry of Identity, Exploring Memory and Belonging in Partition Narratives. This paper explores the subject deeply etched into the fabric of our shared history, the partition of 1947. 75, more than 75 years, in fact, have passed, yet the echoes of this haunting episode continues to resonate through time, reminding us of the profound impact it had on the people and their communities. This paper seeks to unravel the complex tapestry of identity within the framework of the Indian partition. This explores the intricate threads of this tapestry, examining not only the historical facts, but also the deeply embedded emotions, memories, and the intricate play of belonging that define the narratives of this traumatic event. The significance of memory, both on an individual and collective level, cannot be overstated. Memory is not merely a recollection of events, it is a living entity that shapes our perceptions, beliefs, and most importantly, our identities. In the context of the partition, these memories have been transmitted across generations, creating a lasting impact on the individuals and communities involved. This exploration delves into the profound intricacies of identity construction and the sense of belonging. How do individuals, families, and communities reconstruct their identities after a rupture as profound as the partition? What role do these narratives play in shaping our understanding of who we are, where we come from, and where we belong? These are the questions that demand our attention, questions that lie at the heart of this inquiry. By understanding the nuances of memory and belonging in partition narratives, we not only honor the past, but also pave the way for a more empathetic and inclusive future. Memory as a concept assumes a pivotal role in our lives. It acts as a bridge connecting the past and the present, transcending temporal and generational boundaries. In the context of the partition, memory becomes not just a personal recollection, but a collective legacy. The narratives of our grandparents and great-grandparents transmitted through generations are invaluable threads in the tapestry of our identity. Moreover, this collective memory holds immense power. It influences the social, political fabric of not only India and Pakistan, but also the diasporic communities scattered all around the world. What makes memory truly remarkable is its ability to transcend time. The past, with all its joys and sorrows, remains intimately connected to the present. By unraveling the narratives of the past, we gain profound insights into the complexities of identity, belonging, and human resilience. These personal narratives are not just mere anecdotes or incidental, isolated incidents. These are the threads that intricately weave together the rich tapestry of historical events. Memory, as I have come to realize, is a fluid and influential power. It molds individuals' experiences, shaping their perspectives and beliefs after many years have passed. The stories of partition survivors, etched in their memories, continue to influence their lives, beliefs, and interactions, highlighting the enduring impact of historical events on individuals and their collective consciousness. The majority of survivors of this harrowing period were not just dislocated. We all are aware that they were profoundly traumatized. Their lives were upended by this traumatic winds of history. At the core of this tragic legacy of loss lies the passage of time and the sharing of stories. Through the ages, the survivors and their descendants have bravely shared their narratives, transforming personal pain into collective memory. This legacy of grief is not just a historical heritage. It is an ongoing conversation between generations. It is a testament to the unwavering human spirit, reminding us of the enduring power of the human capacity to overcome adversity and hardship.
This paper further emphasizes the importance of acknowledging not only the pain, but also the resilience embedded within these stories. It is in understanding the depth of suffering and the triumph of human spirit that we can truly appreciate the magnitude of their experiences. Now, as I conclude this paper, one of the most striking revelations is the role of memory acting as a bridge connecting people to their ancestral origins. Through narratives of partition survivors, memories serve as a powerful force, linking individuals to the places, traditions, and cultures of their ancestors. Furthermore, the digital realm also acts as a vast repository, preserving these stories for future generations to come. This digital preservation not only safeguards our cultural heritage, but also facilitates broader conversations about the past, fostering understanding and empathy. In conclusion, it is imperative to pay tribute to the lived experiences of partition survivors. Through respectful exploration and thoughtful analysis, scholarship in the field of partition studies can unravel the complexities of these themes, fostering deeper connections among diverse communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to call our next participant, Gorky sir. This one? No.
Respective chairperson, my fellow participants, good afternoon. Nervous. This is first presentation. Okay, so today I'm going to present this paper based on Nadine Gordimer's July's People. Nadine Gordimer, if you don't know, she was the South African writer who was very vehement opponent of the apartheid era, and she was a very prolific writer who won a Nobel in 1991 and also had received the Booker's Prize in 1974 for novel The Conservationist. So conservationist. But here in this novel, July's People, she's imagining a world where in South Africa, the apartheid regime and the white supremacy, it ends. So and the aftermath, how this happens and what happens afterwards. In the novel July's People, she imagines and presents the end of white supremacy and apartheid. In doing so, she also shatters the facade of hypocrisy of progressiveness and liberal values of whites, especially. For this, she chose the Smails family, the adults of the Smails family, Bamford Smails and Maureen Smails, who became the instrument instrumental characters who represents all of the progressive liberals. Here, prophecy of paper values. By these characters, no. I think it's in my laptop, but still. He also to shatter this progressive liberal values and the so-called progressive whites, she also present the children of Smale's family as the character foil, where you can see the children became the character foil, where you can see the children, they are the one who adapts to the new realities of this post-apartheid world. And the novel itself shows a conflict. It is based on the real incident of Soweto rebellion, Soweto uprising in 1976, where Afrikaans language became a crucial point of contention, where it was imposed by the government to learn this Afrikaans language as a medium to not the culture, to get ahead in the positions of power. So for that, the uprising happened, and it was brutally crushed by the government by means of violence. This novel is a response that imagines the aftermath and a fictional future where people of South Africa have rebelled against the white people and overthrown the whole system altogether, and now they are in power, and whites are uprooted from their so-called not so-called, but uprooted from their previous position of power, where they enjoyed all the wealth, all the authority. So in this, their servant July plays a very crucial role, and July himself is the one who represents all the blacks of South Africa in this novel as conflict. So we know the conflict is, by the definition, conflict is a state of disagreement, opposition, or tension between individuals, group, or organizations. It's a common inherent part of human interaction and can arise from various sources. And in this particular novel, she doesn't focus on the outer conflict. The main focus is not on the riots or the civil wars, but her main focus goes on into the inner conflicts of these characters. So these are the types of conflicts that can happen: a group conflict, interpersonal conflict, and intrapersonal conflict. And she covers all these three in this novel. Group conflict is not given that much importance, but it serves as the backdrop of the novel, where a civil war has happened, and now they are taking refuge in their servant's place in his native village, and there. Okay. it comes main is power. The loss of power dynamics. Let's go to the power dynamics. The novel is basically delves into the master and slave relationship, which is based on power, where in normal situations that was happening, that was the reality at that time. Whites had all the power of monetary wealth, resources, natural resources, skills. They were the one who were deciding what skills are to be deemed as skills, but not others. They were controlling the language and also all the technological advancements. They had the sole propriety over there. So in this novel, the power dynamics, economic system plays a very crucial role in this, in maintaining this system, where when males are the one who are basically controlling the monetary wealth and the language in this.
Last sentence from your side as a conclusion. Leave this last sentence from your side as a conclusion. Because we are already exceeding in our time. We will conclude with one sentence.
Okay.
What is the message of
The conclusion of this paper is power is something that determines the identity of a person. It helps create a image, not just the identity, but here identity and image are two different things, as per my belief, because identity is what you truly show yourself in the times of adversity and at the times of your peak humiliation, but image is something you maintain while you are having the power and the privilege that comes with the power. So where white hypocrisy is concerned, most of the liberals are usually, as she understands herself, because we know the concept of subaltern, and she is the one who's writing about the changing power dynamics, and she is the one who is opposing this particular regime, where she is the one who's in privileged position, and she is becoming a mouthpiece of the less privileged, but she's kind of giving it a different take, where she acknowledges that the Maureen's, by the means of this character, Maureen Mills, who considers herself as progressive, liberal, she's against racism and discrimination. But ultimately, how, as the novel progresses, her character falls apart. Her image of herself falls apart as she lives in those conditions. She couldn't live as how she imagined when she was in power. But as her power goes away, her identity becomes more ambiguous, and ultimately she lost everything, not just her identity as a master, but her identity as a wife and mother also. Because at the end of the novel, there's a scene where a helicopter arrives. It's an unmarked helicopter, and she runs towards it, thinking of it as an escape route, leaving her children and husband behind who are nearby. She can hear it, their voices near the bushes, but she's not concerned about them. She just leaves everything. She is not able to, because she's not able to accept this new reality, where she what she thought that July, her servant, might be she might be treating her as an equal, but now that the reality has made them stand in the same plane, she is the one who is not actually enjoying the whole reality. She is not accepting the reality, whereas her children, who are now with these bush children's.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much to all presenters. All the papers very interesting to say the least. So now we would like to extend our gratitude by facilitating our session chair, Dr. Dr. Ranjit Kaur ma'am, with the memento.
Can I take 1 minute? We just, yeah, thanks. Yes, 1 minute. So, I've noted down individually, yes, for paucity of time. I'm not going to convey for the 1 minute that I want to convey thanks to Deepa ma'am and Pawan ma'am for inviting me. Thank you so much for inviting me here and very few topics and two titles and the way that you have bring those topics and titles into your thoughts and presented in the paper form. Thank you so much, everyone. I have noticed that you are that little bit nervous, but at times, at the end, it's difficult for him. We have to ask him, okay, stop. So please give them a round of applause. It is a learning platform. We have to be there and we have to learn. Thank you so much. Thank you, Archana. Thank you very much. The paper presenters. You all stand. Thank you for our answer. Yeah. You were very good. Oh, that's let me comment. Yes. Otherwise, service from maybe 10 minutes more, 5, 10. So be there in the valedictory because base paper presentations will be participated.
Right, it's working on that, but yes, things will take time to, like, by the time I communicate it, it will take some time. Why not? You know, asking people to send it for advice, because there are so many, insights. You can revise it and resend, and then we'll come back and
हाँ, हाँ, हाँ।